The second most sued upon offense in real estate is agency. And why? It's because of this little guy right here, intermediary. Intermediary, one of the 4 types of agency in Texas, is one of the biggest reasons why agency is the number 2 most sued upon thing in real estate. There are 2 types of intermediary, and we're going to be talking about one today. This is a 2-part series where you're going to be an intermediary pro before the end of these 2 sessions. So here we go. Intermediary, the word literally means intermiddle. Intermiddle. Well, who's in the middle? It is the broker. The broker is, let's look at this. The broker is the intermediary. He's the guy. The broker has to remain neutral. I like to call the broker Switzerland. He's not on one side or the other. He just kind of stands in the middle and goes, I'm just going to be here, not giving advice and opinions, but only giving honesty and fairness. The broker is in the middle, and here's the next little tidbit. The broker can never represent one side or the other, buyer or seller. He's Switzerland. He's neutral. He always has to be in the middle. So, next thing, there are 2 types of intermediary. There is intermediary with appointees and intermediary without appointees. In this 2-part series, we're going to be breaking down intermediary with appointees. What all do we need? What all has to be there so that we are not illegal dual agents? Well, let's make sure we check off all the boxes and understand intermediary completely. Because one of the big things that brokerages and brokers and agents are afraid of is fear of the unknown. Many times they won't even go near intermediary because they don't fully understand it. Not today. After this Monday with Micah, you're going to get it. And watch for the next session where we cover intermediary without appointees. Here we go. Let's break it down, shall we? Now, as we said, the broker is the intermediary. He's Switzerland. He cannot provide advice and opinions to either party, the buyer or the seller. Great. So the very name, intermediary with appointees, means the broker is appointing agents that are licensed in his firm or her firm to represent each side. So let's break it down. We have agent A, who is going to be representing our buyer client. Got it. We got one appointed agent. We now have agent B, who is going to be representing our seller client. Got it. So there are a number of things that we have to have in place that the Texas Real Estate Commission in Texas says this is a law. If we don't do these things, then we could be found guilty of dual agency if this list isn't checked off. Let's put the list together, shall we? All right. Broker's the intermediary. We have appointed agents. The broker appoints an agent to work with both the buyer and the seller. By the way, only the broker can appoint. You, the agent, can't appoint someone to work with a buyer if you're working with the seller. That has to come from your broker. All right. Agent A is representing a buyer. There are things that have to be in place here, gang, and here it is. Yep. A written buyer representation agreement in writing. Yes, oral buyer agreements are great for any other situation. You do not have to have it in writing like you do a listing. But when you do intermediary, the law says we have to have some sort of representation agreement in writing. There you go. That's the first one, a written buyer rep. And in that buyer rep, we have box 8A. That has to be checked saying yes, giving prior approval to even do intermediary. That means for your buyer that little box checked off means you can take them to go see your listings or any other listing in your own brokerage. That's why it's important to get prior approval before you go out and start looking at those listings. Now, On the seller side, it's similar. We need a written listing agreement. And that listing agreement has a box, and that is 9A. Box 9A is saying yes to intermediary, giving prior approval to go ahead and have you, the listing agent, or any agent in your office, be able to bring buyers to that seller's property. Got it. There's two things. What has to be in the middle? Well, best thing is intermediary form. Texas Realtors provides a form for all parties, buyer and seller, to sign that lists the appointees for each side and tells each seller and buyer that when they have an appointed agent to them, they get advice and opinions. The only thing these agents can't do is share confidential information. They cannot share anything confidential from either side. They can only tell each other the facts. And this makes our seller happy. This makes our buyer happy. The seller is able to get advice and opinions from their own appointed agent. The buyer is able to get advice and opinions from their own appointed agent. Knowing that confidentiality is in place, they both have to sign the intermediary form. And that, with all those boxes checked off, is legal intermediary with appointees. Now, if you don't want to use the buyer rep or the written listing agreement given to us by TR, your board, your brokerage, or an attorney can draw up those agreements for you. So you do need to have those agreements in writing and in the middle intermediary form. So that is intermediary with appointees. Things start getting really crazy when we do intermediary without appointees. All the rules change, so stay tuned next time for the next session of Mondays with Micah. Why does real estate education have to be boring? It doesn't have to. Real estate education can be fun. It can be hilarious. It can be a blast. And you know where it is a blast? Right here on LOL Lessons in Real Estate YouTube channel. Right here, you can subscribe and get notifications every time awesome new videos drop. Boom. Join us, LOL Lessons in Real Estate. It's the most fun you'll ever have learning about real estate, I promise.